I'm on a quest to find the best wings in America, and I'm traveling across the country state by state until I find them. I've been making my way down the East Coast, and on this leg of the journey, I'll be trying wings from all over the Southeast Atlantic region. So that includes North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. I'm currently just outside of Savannah, Georgia. There's been a murder. And I'm on my way to Florida so I can start there and work my way back up towards North Carolina. First up is a place called Domu in Jacksonville, Florida. Domu was the most suggested place in the whole state, and it also makes an appearance on several lists of the best wings in Florida. The original location is in Orlando, but I swung by the Jacksonville location to save myself about half a day of driving. The restaurant itself was located in a shopping center. Like, if it gives you an idea, it was on a strip with a Mission barbecue. Definitely not a hole in the wall. There were plants everywhere, a white marble bar, and white tile and brick on the walls. For their wings, they only have 2 flavors: their original kimchi butter sauce with sesame seeds, and a seasonal flavor, which at the time was a chipotle beet barbecue. The bartender told me that she prefers the original, but I figured I'd go ahead and try the seasonal ones anyway. Another bartender told me he assumed I'd been there before because most people come for the ramen but come back for the wings. He said to me, "We're more of a wing place than a ramen place." So just a quick refresher on my rating scale. The wings will be rated on a scale of 1 to 10 across 5 different categories for a total out of 50. People have criticized me for rating things way too highly, but I view it as more of a grading scale where a C is average, and less like one of those customer satisfaction surveys you fill out where 50% is neutral. The wings arrived and I was immediately impressed. The barbecue ones came out first and they smelled really good. They were really big, breaded, and I would say appropriately sauced, like they weren't drowning in sauce. The kimchi butter ones came shortly after that and also looked great. I was really curious to see how they tasted. For appearance / first impression, I went 9 out of 10. As a side note here, the restaurant itself draws from Japanese cuisine, but the wings are more similar to a Korean style. For meatiness and size, again, these things looked huge. The breading looked like they played a big part in that, so I bit in to confirm how meaty they were and settled on a 9.75. Some of the size was attributed to the breading, but these things were still enormous. The breading is gluten-free according to the menu, so I asked the bartender what it was made from if it wasn't flour. I was told that it's proprietary, so he couldn't tell me, but definitely gluten-free. Seems like it could be like a cornstarch or maybe a potato starch. As for texture and tenderness, they described their wings as extra crispy, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I would say maybe more crunchy than crispy. Flakes of the breading were falling off as I ate. Inside was pretty tender though, just not exactly falling off the bone. I was told they fry the wings once and then put them in the freezer for an hour before frying them a second time so that the outside gets crispy without overcooking the inside. I decided on an 8 out of 10. Alright, for the sauce flavor, the kimchi butter is a really solid flavor. I liked the barbecue ones too. I think the beet provided like a nice earthiness to it, so it wasn't too sweet of a barbecue. This might sound weird, but I feel like I almost got tired of the flavor by the end, so maybe best shared or in smaller portions? I don't know. I went 8 out of 10. Overall experience of the wings, 9 out of 10. Very, very filling. So the total score for Domu was 43.75. That's tied with Otis 12 from Erie, Pennsylvania. Also slightly ahead of Kochik's, the Korean-style wings place from DC. These wings weren't particularly spicy, but later on in this video, I'll be ordering the spiciest wings one restaurant has to offer. The next day I made my way to Georgia, and I had a ton of suggestions for Georgia, but a restaurant called The Local was the most suggested restaurant in the state. I arrived right after they opened at 5 p.m. because I was warned that they sell out most nights, and when they're gone, they're gone. Didn't want a repeat of the main situation. Just as a side note, you do have to be 21 or older to enter. They've converted the indoor seating area to be counter service only. So the bar and the patio still have full service, but otherwise you just go and order at the counter. It was dark inside with loud music playing, but phenomenal vibes. So from what I've learned, lemon pepper wet is kind of the signature style in Atlanta. So when I got up to the counter, I asked for lemon pepper wet, and she asked me what I meant. She was like, that can mean a lot of different things to different people. Their lemon pepper was a dry rub, but they also had a combination of the buffalo sauce and their lemon pepper. I told her that that's what was recommended to me, and she said, okay, probably the buffalo and lemon pepper then. So I ordered 5 of those and 5 regular buffalo. They call your name over the speakers when your order is ready.
Sam, come get your food.
I was not expecting to get fries with my wings, so that was a nice surprise. All right, for appearance and first impression, these looked really good, and they smelled good. Visually, they were much darker than I was expecting, especially for a lemon flavor. There was also a good amount of sauce. I went 9.5 out of 10. They looked a tiny bit like the wings I had from Express Wings in Delaware, which was not a great experience, so that's why it wasn't a perfect 10. All right, for meatiness and size, these things were huge, and they were not breaded. And once I bit in, I confirmed that they were very meaty and not scraggly, so I went 10 out of 10. Perfect 10. For texture and tenderness, these fell off the bone more than any wing I've ever had. Just so tender. To be honest, I wish it was a little bit crispier on the outside, but still really good. I suspected that's because they were smoked instead of fried. I ended up asking someone and was told that they're smoked all day and then fried once you order them and then sauced after that. For texture, I went 8.5 out of 10. All right, now for sauce flavor. The buffalo was unlike any of the wings that I've tried so far in these videos. The smoky flavor really comes through, which is awesome. The lemon pepper adds exactly what you'd expect, so a little more citrus flavor and then that peppery texture and flavor. About halfway through, I thought to myself, I think these are the best wings I've ever had. Not spicy, but very flavorful. I didn't want those things to end. 9.5 out of 10 for sauce flavor. An overall experience of the wings, my first ever 10 out of 10 in that category. Perfect 10. That brings the total score to 47.5, taking first place in this quest by a long shot. And I stand by that, they were so good. As I was heading out around 6 p.m., the line ballooned to about 20 people, so I'm glad I got there when I did. I have some family in Atlanta, so I met up with them for a late dinner at a restaurant called Fox Brothers, which was also suggested by several viewers. I know I've only done one restaurant per state so far, but I asked Vin Diesel, who's the honorary commissioner of this quest, and he said he'd be willing to make an exception for family. Plus, I was willing to select the local as the one representative from the state. If you're curious, Fox Brothers came in at 42 out of 50, and my cousin Mason brought me some hot lemon pepper wings from a place called Jamal's. They were really tasty, but only came in around 40.5. I'm assuming that score would be higher if I had them fresh out of the fryer. Okay, next up, it was time to make my way to Greenville, South Carolina. I know I eat a lot of food on this channel, but having a healthy relationship with food is super important to me, and that's why I'm so grateful to partner with brands like Factor, who's the sponsor of this episode. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. During the holidays, things can feel really busy, and sometimes it feels like the easiest thing to do is get takeout, but Factor is actually even easier. And they're going to provide you with nutritious, flavorful meals that fuel you. That's why they're America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. It also doesn't hurt that they have over 35 different weekly meal options that fit your preferences and lifestyle. You can also find options for breakfast, snacks, and drinks like these chocolate banana protein shakes that I've really been enjoying. 18 grams of protein, it's pretty good. When I'm editing for long periods of time or rushing to something in the evening, it can be hard to figure out what to make for dinner. But when I have Factor in the fridge, it's super convenient having something that's ready to eat in just 2 minutes. No prep and no mess. I also appreciate the flexibility of it all, like you can adjust your order size or skip a week if you need to. So if you want to try Factor out this December, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code REVIEW50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That's factor75.com and the code is REVUE50. A restaurant called The Local Q was suggested multiple times, and it was rated more highly on Google reviews than any other South Carolina wing place on my list. It was huge. There were pool tables, TVs, board games, tons of seating. Like, I'm not sure what their maximum capacity is, but I'm pretty sure they could seat hundreds of people in there. Another place where you do have to be 21 or older to enter. The wings here were a little bit different, so they're described as jumbo house-smoked wings tossed in their dry rub. So all the wings are served dry with the sauce on the side. An order of 10 wings comes with 3 sauces on the side, so I chose medium, as in medium buffalo, jalapeno mango, which was a recommendation from my waitress, and South Carolina Gold barbecue, because when in Rome. All right, for appearance and first impression, I was definitely intrigued. Their dry rub that's on there was really heavy on some wings, but more evenly distributed on others. They looked good though. I would say 8.5 out of 10. All right, for meatiness and size, I went 9.5 out of 10. These were pretty big wings. For texture and tenderness, okay, there was a great crisp on the outside. The meat didn't quite fall off the bone as much though. I would say the tenderness was decent, like there was a solid level of juiciness, especially for it being a dry rub. I went 8.5 out of 10. And on to the sauce flavor. I did try them without any sauce just to see how they tasted, and they were pretty good. The medium was fine, I would say. Tasty, but nothing super unique. They were more creamy than they were oily, which is good. And they also had a hot option that I didn't order. The South Carolina Gold barbecue wasn't really like a golden color, but they did taste good. It was a sweeter tasting barbecue. And that actually complemented the saltiness of the dry rub pretty well. And then the jalapeno mango, which was way more mango than it was jalapeno. A very sweet sauce. So overall for sauce flavor, I'd go 8 out of 10. And I had to think about my overall experience of the wings. My thoughts on the sauce on the side were that it's good in theory and allows you to try multiple sauces. You could also get extra cups of sauce for 50 cents, but a little bit tricky in practice. The cups were small, so the drums were easy to dip, but the flats were a little bit harder. I tried pouring the sauce over the flats, but then it just wasn't really evenly distributed. I enjoyed the wings, I just think in general I prefer wings tossed in the sauce. So 8 out of 10 overall. That brings them to a total of 42.5 out of 50. By the way, I left a business card on the bulletin board by the bathroom, so if you ever go to the local queue, check it out. The final restaurant on this leg of the quest was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And for this one, we're actually stepping back in time a few months, and I just want to say real quick, thank you for your patience with me getting these videos out. I am super grateful for the support you've shown for this series. I'm still pretty new to this YouTube thing, so it just takes me a while to plan these trips out, find a time that actually works for me to travel, and then edit and publish the videos. So thanks for bearing with me. The restaurant in Charlotte was called the Moosehead Grill, which was suggested by several viewers, and has won first place in the National Buffalo Wing competition for both the creative spicy and the crowd favorite categories. The vibes at this place were immaculate. Wooden floors and booths, stickers on everything, eclectic decorations, and string lights everywhere. And as promised, I set out to order the hottest wings on the menu. The only problem was that I'd eaten breakfast just 30 minutes earlier. Not exactly the best time to punish your stomach with spice. The hottest wings were called the Hoisin Poison, and the waiter actually tried to talk me out of ordering them. He said to me, "Have you ever had those before? They've got the Carolina Reaper in them." Like, dude, we don't have milk here. They're hot. He tried to suggest another one that was still spicy but not as bad, but I was determined. I ordered 5 of the Hoisin Poison, 5 of the Hot Buffalo, and 5 of the Uncle Donnie's famous blackened wings. Eventually they came out, and for my first impression, I would say they looked pretty solid. They smelled pretty good too. I thought that the Hot Buffalo looked average, but the blackened wings looked pretty nice. I went 8.5 out of 10. The Poison ones stung the nostrils a little bit, and that's when I remembered that I had forgotten to apply chapstick, so I started to get a little nervous. For meatiness size, I just went solid 9 out of 10. So moving right on to the texture and tenderness, I would say that there was a good crispiness, which I like, but honestly they were a little chewy. I couldn't tell if that was from the outer layer or the meat itself. I started with a 7 out of 10, but once I tried the blackened, I upped that to an 8 out of 10, because the texture of those ones was great. Alright, and for the sauce flavor, the buffalo was good, not too hot, nothing to write home about. And as you can see, by the time I was just 2 wings in, I was already pretty shiny. But I would chalk that up to the Charlotte humidity and not the heat of the wings, so I was still somewhat confident at this point. Had a little carrot as a palate cleanser. I tried the Uncle Donnie's wings, and I think a little bit of the sauce squirted into my eye. I would describe those wings as flavorful, but I'm not sure that I loved them. 8.5 out of 10. And then I got ready to dive into the Hoisin Poison. This was a big order of wings, and I was still pretty full from breakfast. My strategy was just to get through these 5 wings as quickly as possible. As I looked at the wings, I thought to myself, good lord, I am very nervous. Another quick palate cleanser, and then I dove in. As I've mentioned before, there's a delay to these things, so the spice didn't fully hit me until I was on my second wing. And holy cow, my tongue was just on fire. I suddenly understood the tone of the warning from the waiter. Like, I wanted to tap out after the first 2 wings. As you can see here, my face is noticeably shinier, and for some reason I thought I felt it toning down a little bit, so I decided to go back in for more. And at this point, I was just regretting everything. I took a fingertip of dressing just to be able to keep moving forward. My entire top lip, like from my lip all the way to my nose, was burning. That chewiness that I had noticed earlier was coming back to haunt me. I couldn't chew and swallow the hot ones fast enough, so there was more time for the spice to linger in my mouth and just hurt. You know how people say screaming, crying, throwing up? Well, that's legitimately how I felt in real life in this moment. At some point I was like, maybe my mouth is numb now? And finally, I made it through to the end. I finished wing number 5. I was so glad to be done, but I knew that the pain wasn't over yet. I took some big gulps of water, and I know I've seen the comments that say that it doesn't help or that it actually makes it worse, but I feel like it provides at least some temporary relief. And in the words of Sean Evans, any port in a storm. Breathing and exhaling hurt, which I found to be typical after wings this spicy, but blowing my nose also hurt for some reason, which was a new experience. So not the cleanest I've ever picked wings, but I'm proud that I didn't quit after the first 2. And after another few minutes, I was finally starting to feel okay. For my overall experience of the wings at Moosehead, I went 9 out of 10. I left my mark on the booth where I was sitting, so if you're ever there, you can check that out. I left the camera rolling as I signed the check, and I accidentally caught my nose do this nasty involuntary drip. And if you don't want to see the details, you can look away away for a second, but I also got a shot of it up close when I was back in the car. It was a consistency that I've never seen before. I couldn't feel it happening because of the numbness, it was just happening. All right, coast is clear if you looked away a second ago. Also, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I touched my eyes like 2 hours later as I was driving home, and it really started to burn. I really thought my hands were clean, but I guess I should have done a more careful scrub. The total score for Moosehead was 43 out of 50, which means that the local is not only the winner of this region, but also the new leader for the entire country. Shout out to the local in Atlanta, Georgia for some amazing wings. This leg involved eating over 50 wings and driving for more than 24 hours, and I managed not to lose my credit card, so great trip all around. I'm working my way around the country region by region, with Buffalo serving as the finish line to this series. My next region will be the Southeast Central region. So if I haven't come to your region already, make sure you let me know in the comments where I can find the best wings in your state. And just remember that even when it doesn't feel like it, like when you're being destroyed by a sauce called Hawes and Poison, eventually it's gonna be okay. I'll see you soon.